Okay, I think let's start now. Let me share my screen to you all. Since I will be shuffling across different screens, so I've just shared my desktop for the easiness. So hope I am visible to all of you. Just a quick check if I am visible, or rather, not me. The screen of mine is visible to all of you. Anyone who can text me out? I will, I will. I'm just trying to first sort out the logistic visible. Super. Okay. So, guys, let me first introduce myself to you all. Probably you're hearing a new voice, so you might be wondering who this guy is. So, I am Ravi Gupta. I will be continuing this course for you from this week onwards and carry the flagship going forward. Just a brief introduction on myself. I have almost, you can say, 14 plus years of experience in SAP. Have done multiple implementations, almost 13 plus implementation on SAP front. When I say implementation, those are like niche key projects that we do. Have done this for a lot of premium clients, including some India flagship companies, some top Fortune 500 companies across the world. So have luckily an exposure both in Indian market and in global markets that way. Last but not the least, from a qualification perspective, I am a chartered accountant and a company secretariat. And as the topic is the finance and controlling, so I'm also certified person in this particular area and have been doing this for my bread and butter also from a long time. So that is how I have an expertise in this. I also take a lot of trainings, and so to say, just to highlight and give you a small background. The other batches, which are the mandatory batches for the CA Inter team, those batches, there were two batches that I took, I think, in between last year and current year. So the topic and the other things were continued in this series. So that's a small brief on myself. Let's quickly jump into the topic, because I know that we just managed to get 2 hours a day, and that too on weekends. So I don't want to spoil it, putting a saga on me, but rather better off to go to the topic. So what I understood last time from some of the folks from the institute is that controlling structure and planning was some of the areas where you need a bit of a better understanding. And I thought that it would be a good platform to start from there so that we can build a bit of a confidence in this front. What I do is generally, when I take sessions, I first go through the session, in between take a pause, take down the questions. So feel free to put up those questions when I kind of give a time of for 5-10 minutes to raise your questions. Feel free to raise your questions. I will use three things in the training, just to be quickly updating you: the material, the Excel document to explain some of the fundamentals, and also in order to show some of it, the SAP system. So in certain places I will go on and also try and use the SAP system for the benefit of better understanding. Okay, super. So let's go and get into the controlling piece. Now, the very first thing is the controlling structure that we have been talking about. Okay, what is this controlling structure? You would have seen this kind of diagram, etc. a lot, but let me put it in this way. Let me see if that slide is there or not. Slide is not there, so let me take you to an Excel quickly and probably help you there. Okay, so first of all, controlling module means management reporting module. Okay, when I say management reporting module, how it is different? Whatever you learn in finance, that finance piece is mostly covering your financial statement reporting. That means from Indian accounting standard perspective, when I generate the total output in an annual report for the financial statement, that is what is the final objective of all my finance module, entire finance module. Whereas there are a lot of things which are not just financial statement, but even required at a management level, like what is the cost that I am incurring in each department, isn't it? Any organization will have multiple departments. So what is the cost that I am incurring in each department? How much profitability I am making for some of my key products that I am selling in the market? If let's say I am ITC, how am I working in hotel business? How am I working in my let's say FMCG business, etc., etc. Given I have different businesses, right? How my products are getting costed? Is it going good? Is there an increase? Is there a variation? Is there any further efficiency, improvisation that I can do? There are many such aspects, right? And these kind of key aspects are something that we touch upon when we talk about controlling. Okay, so first I wanted to make you feel what controlling module actually is. Then if this is the case, the important, so for any module to work, there are two things. And again, I'm just slightly giving general view. Might be it's a repetition, sorry for that, but I feel that if it is not clear, then you cannot go ahead. So for any module to work, there are two things, or rather three things that comes in picture. What are those three? Org elements, master data, and transactional data. Okay, so you will have certain organization, certain master data, and you will have certain, obviously, transactional data in the system. Just 1 second, guys. Yeah, sorry. Given that as a logic, what are these? Like when I say organizational elements, what do I mean by it? So this is the level I use for my reporting. Okay, a level that I will be using for my reporting. Let's take some examples to understand. Like in finance, you might have heard that company is the level at which I report my financial statement. Sorry, any questions? Okay, all good. Super. Yep. Sorry, let me go back. I thought there is some question by someone which broke my focus. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah. Yeah, back to the screen. So what I'm mentioning is that in finance, we learned about company, right? And company is something that we know quite well, that at the company level, we have financial statements. Super. So is this the only thing? Answer is no, obviously not. Like, what about in an organization, there are 10 kinds of departments, right? Finance department, sales department, marketing department, administration department, maintenance department, and whatnot, correct? Each of those departments are incurring cost, isn't it? I mean, you do any activity, you are going to incur as a department certain cost. So what if I want to know department wise what is the cost that I am incurring in the organization? And if that is the intention, please note, department is my organizational element, isn't it? Correct? Similarly, we took the example of ITC. We said that there are different businesses it has: hotel business, FMCG business, all of these kind of business. So if there are different business, how do you as an individual identify the profitability from those business. Only when you get a report at those business elements, right? And then that also means those different kinds of business, and might be different kinds of brands, might be different kinds of products. In all of such cases, we would prefer to identify profitability, and as a result, all of them can be my org elements. Okay, so that is how my org elements are. We will take specific examples for controlling once we conclude on these three areas. Now we come to master data. What is master data? Master data basically supports to perform a transaction. When it says supports, basically in a simple layman language, if there are a set of information that I have to feed every time in the system, what I do is I create for them master data. Okay, why? If I create them as master data, I don't have to always feed that information. I will pull that information whenever I want. An example, let's say that there is a supplier. Okay, now you regularly buy from that supplier. Is that a preferred option that every time you buy, you mention the name of the supplier, the registration of the supplier as in GST registration, the other details, the address, the SPOC, etc., etc.? Too much, right? I mean, might be you are dealing with that supplier quite frequent, correct? And if that is the case, then it is too much of an ask. So what you do, you create that supplier as a master. The moment you create that supplier as a master, what you result, or what you finally uh, uh, kind of do at the time of transaction is you just pull that supplier code, and that supplier code has all the details that we talked about. I mean, we just talked about 6 7, but there can be 40 50 details that you might have kept, and all of those details are very easily getting associated with your transaction, right? That is master data. Some examples, as I was saying, vendor, customer, all of that you might have heard in finance. What is there in controlling? We will come to it. Last is the transactional data. Now, in finance, you know all the accounting entries which are similar to my vouchers. So if anybody of you have seen how the audits happens, they all see the different types of vouchers, right? So the vouchers are something which in system uh, are being referred as transactional data. And so in finance world, it's called accounting document. Please note, accounting document is transactional data for finance. That doesn't mean at all that that is the only data you have. Very important to understand. That doesn't mean at all that that is the only transactional data you have. Like, for example, when a company issues a purchase order, I hope you all know what is purchase order, right? Very known fact. Purchase order, like if I want to say to a supplier that yes, you are the selected supplier for me, come and deliver the goods, then I will issue a purchase order. That purchase order, is it a financial document? Answer is no, never. Why? Because there is no accounting or no journal entries that will happen when I issue a purchase order. But it's a transaction, it's a dealing. And in order to have that dealing or a transaction, you need to capture that in the system. So that gets captured as a purchase order document number. That is also a transaction. Similarly, on controlling also, that means in the management reporting or controlling world also, there are many such transactions that gets captured as a transactional data, which are isolated, identified transactions for control. Okay. Now, if so far things are clear, let's understand what elements, when we talk about these three, what are the stuff that we are going to kind of correlate with the controlling module. Once I do so, I will open the bridge, in the sense I will open the call for any questions, etc. For 5 minutes we will take that and then go to the next topic. Okay, super. So let's write down some of the elements. Controlling, or rather, let me use, I'm just trying to use a bit more space, so I'm writing it here, and spare me for any spelling mistakes that I do. So the first one I will mention is profit center, the second one I will mention is cost center, the third one I will mention is sorry, if there are any questions you can feel free to raise while I just, and I hope my screen is visible all this while. So here, and then I will go for picking up transactional, which is ECA talk, CO talk, CO talk. Let me first explain, and then you can correlate or associate things out. So there is first item called controlling area. What is this controlling area? So in SAP, when you go and see the very first thing under the controlling module, that particular thing is controlling area. And actually the module has been named as controlling module because of this controlling area. Now controlling, you might be thinking it is all about those controls, might be checks, controls, everything would be there. No, actually it's other way around. It is not about controls, it is more about reporting, to be honest, where this module works better. So first element itself of the controlling module, which we called as org element, is controlling area. What is this controlling area? Controlling area is basically a node. It's a technical node. Let me first tell you. It's not a business function node. Like, you cannot associate it with a company, etc. It's a technical node. Okay. And that node is basically the replica of your group. Why I say group? So let's take an example of Tata Steel. Okay, very rich company, very sound company. Most of us know about it. And Tata is a big reputed brand. We know about Tata Steel, at least we all. So in Tata Steel, do you think they will have one company? Can't be, right? Can't be at all. Actually, if you see the whole group of Tata Steel, it's like they are having almost 300 plus or 400 plus companies. Okay, and when I say 300 or 400 plus companies, I'm not just talking about India entity, but also the other than India entities, which are part of all Tata Steel. Now, if that many entities it has, so how will in entirety I can report in Tata Steel? Very important question. How can I in entirety report for Tata Steel? You might, if have not understood my question, let me give an example to narrate it. So I'm a part of Tata Steel group. Okay, let's take this, that I am a group controller. Okay, now sorry, as a group controller, I would like to know the, let's say, the cost that I am incurring for my finance department across the board. That means for all, irrespective of any company, in total for Tata Steel, I want to know what is the cost that I am incurring for finance. Okay. Second example. Well, I am manufacturing multiple products, and all of these products are getting manufactured from multiple companies, entities that I have. Okay. Let's take one case. Let's say that I am manufacturing pellets. Sorry, I am manufacturing or rather generating bench, iron bench from the whole process, and those bench are in the form of generating SMS first from pellets, and then moving into different dimensions, and then creating a bench. Okay, and that bench will have different detailing. Now I want to know for that particular product what is my profitability. These kind of important question which I want to know at a group level, might be as a group controller, might be not just as a group controller, but a CFO, but a account head of the group company. Such questions will come in, and the answer to such questions is creation of a controlling area. So what I will do is, I will create Tata Steel. I repeat, I will create Tata Steel as my controlling area. And if I create Tata Steel as my controlling area, which is the group, not Tata Steel Limited, which is a company. Please don't confuse between the two. It's a group, Tata Steel, where there are those 300 to 400 legal entities, not one legal entity, which is Tata Steel Limited. Okay, I'm creating Tata Steel as a group, and within that group, I will be assigning all my, so if I give an example, Tata Steel as controlling area, and with this Tata Steel I will assign 300 plus, let's say, legal entity. Okay, I will assign all the legal entities to this Tata Steel. Why? Because I am looking at lot of information which is not just at this level but at this level. Okay, which is not from a perspective that whether administration cost or a interest cost is this much, but from different dimension, like which department is incurring how much cost, what nature of cost, profitabilities, etc. Right? So that is the logic of controlling area. That is why we create control. That overall, globally, I can have my reports visible across the board. It's a, so Tata Steel was a big company. We took an example. What about a small company? Might be a company which is just one entity in itself, not much. Apollo Tires, one entity. I don't have many other entities. I'm just taking a hypothetical example. Let's say Apollo Tires. Now, for that kind of a company, which is just one company and not having any multiple subsidiaries or further bifurcation of it, then the life is a bit more simpler. The life is AT, Apollo Tires, will be assigned to AT, one company, which is assigned one controlling area, which is assigned to one company. But in order to have those kind of reportings that I mentioned, you have to create a controlling area. That's a mandate. Okay. If it's a big group, create the group itself so that you can have a better coverage. If it's not a big group, smaller group, then create it at a sorry, smaller group. Say if it's a single individual, then create it at an individual entity level. If it can also happen that it's a big group, let's say Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola is in almost every country, isn't it? And it's a big, that way, a organization spreading across different geographies. So, will that be a case that they will have one controlling area? Might not be, because they might have multiple controlling area. Why I am saying so? Because they might want their operations, their group operations to be consolidated, or rather to be reported and managed at a region level. What do I mean by region? Let's take some examples. Coca-Cola, APAC, MENA, Europe, okay, then America and Canada, like that. Okay, so these are different regions. When I say regions, spreading the whole business into some regions, and then putting up all my management reporting controls, etc., to those regions. And might be on top of it, there would be one single place where finally the head office lies. Doesn't matter. But that means there are controlling area 1, controlling area 2, controlling area 3, and controlling area 4. There can be multiple controlling area. This can be assigned to company code 1 to 10. This can be assigned to company code 11 to 30. This can be assigned to company code 31 to 35. I'm just taking rough examples, 35, 36 to 45. Okay, so that is how your companies will be segregated, and your companies will get assigned to a controlling area. And now the person who is at APAC level is governing all the reports, all the controls for company code 1 to 10, for company code 11 to 30, 31 to 35, and 36 to 45, as the structure looks. Okay, this is controlling area. Now let's come to the second dimension, which is profit center. What is profit center? So I just have been saying different businesses for ITC, or brands for certain companies, or products that can be product types rather for certain companies. Like let's take an example, clothing, a company which is involved in clothing business. Okay, so they might have menswear, women's wear, kids wear, and all ethnic wear, western wear, and all of them. If I segregate, I would be interested probably to find even at that level how much profitability I am making, because if my profitability is going well in menswear, I should look into improving far more sales there. At the same time, if my profitability is going low on kidswear, that means it's time to visit and check why is it so. Okay, so all of such kind of things, correct? Write it down and then I will answer it. So, business product. The profit center represents line of business, product, brand, or even locations. Why I say locations, it might be that you are manufacturing products in different location. Like you have 5 factories, And in all the 5 factories, the products are getting manufactured and then obviously sold out to different geographies, etc. So you might look to have profit centers also at, you might look to create them as profit centers. You know why you will create line of business, product, brands, and locations as profit center? The word that I said, profitability, right? But in SAP, this profit center is far more powerful than this. In SAP at profit center level, you can get your not just P&L but also balance sheet. I repeat, in SAP at profit center level, you cannot only expect profitability, which is P&L, but also balance sheet. And that makes the magic. Imagine for such kind of cases, LOBs, products, brands, etc., when you get profit center and balance sheet both. Okay. Now, cost center. Cost center has no brainer. It's always department. Cost centers will always be like a department. These departments can be like a typical finance, maintenance, admin, sales, marketing, those departments, or this can be a further detailed department bifurcation in production. So when we come or when we talk about production, production can have far more breakdowns. Why? A particular product becomes a product only when it goes through a different processing. Might be heating, you might have done some hammering, some splitting, uh, some concentration, condensing. There can be many processes. And then finally, the output comes out, right? So that way, your production department might have several sub departments, and cost center will represent all of those kind of sub departments or the department framework that we have across the entities, across the location. I repeat, across the entities, across the location. So if if the finance department is there for those 10 entities, there would be 10 entities with 10 finance departments created as 10 into 10, 100 cost centers. If there are, sorry, my bad, 10 entities with finance department, so there would be 10 finance cost center getting created. Let me rectify. Similarly, if there are other departments and let's say production department, the process of condensing, the process of heating happens in all my 5 locations. So 5 locations doing this two process as a common stuff. So 5 into 2, 10 cost centers I will again create to identify the cost of these departments. Objective is very simple, as the name says, to find out the cost for each of these departments. Always remember, cost center can only provide cost. I repeat, cost center can only provide cost. Then what is internal order? Internal order is, you can say, a more smaller or lower unit where you can find cost plus revenue. That means, you guessed it right, P&L. So you can get P&L, but it's something which is lower than department. What do I mean by lower than department? When I say lower than department, it means, let's say, let's take some examples. Our ICM Institute went ahead and did one seminar. Okay. Now, obviously, seminars will require cost, will require some funding. Now, the institute will like to have a track of their cost, how much it is incurring for that seminar, because it's important, right? I mean, that is how you will come to know that, okay, is it exceeding budget, how to prepare yourself for next time, and all of those. If I just look this from a department perspective, it might go and sit in one particular department where there are many other cost settings. So it will be very difficult to identify that cost, at least over here. But if I create it as a separate internal order, like exhibition 1, okay, here you go, all my cost explicitly for this particular exhibition can be considered, and then I can have all my costs tracked. It can also happen that in that same exhibition, what we did is we also allowed, let's say, souvenirs for the people who are coming. For them, we allowed souvenirs to sell. Okay. Now, obviously, souvenir sale is generating some revenue to us. I can also capture those kind of revenues to my internal order. Benefit in an internal order, then you can see an entire report, how much cost you have incurred in that exhibition, how much revenue and what all revenue you have earned from that exhibition, and that gives you a complete complete clarity and a detailing, which if you start booking into departments will never be easy to find and will be a difficult exercise. Okay. Then comes WBS. You will not find, so first of all, what is the full form of WBS? Work bench down structure. Okay. So let me take this out. Workbench down structure. Okay. What is this workbench down structure? Now, from manufacturing, just for some time, I know we all are kind of thinking from a costing angle, so it's all manufacturing, but just spare a thought. There are industries like construction infrastructures, right? They don't do manufacturing, but for them it's very important to manage projects, to manage the finance in that project, scheduling, etc, etc, etc. So for those kind of companies, we use WBS, okay, where the entire project related cost, related structuring, related scheduling, progress, planning, whatnot is getting managed in the system. Something similar to how we do it for production. Pretty much that we call. Okay. Now, for all of such cases that we just talked about, system actually, when we post transactions, when we post entries, then system actually generates document. For profit center, system generates a profit center documents, profit center accounting documents, we call them, separate identifications. Okay. So when you go to any profit center accounting document, it will show each of the document that has been posted to different profit centers. And that is how the balance sheet and P&Ls are getting created. Okay. Then for rest, it is generating CO documents. What is the CO documents? So again, the same thing. Let's say 5,000 cost I incurred for some department. So I'm saying that this is a finance department. So how will I know that in finance department total cost has been 5,000? Because of these CO documents getting generated and is or rather will be reported at a department level to show me the cost or to show me the cost in general. This is how entire transactional fees gets managed. Okay, now what I will do is I will open the floor for 5 minutes for any question So guys, if you have any doubts, any question, please put it in the chat so that, or feel free to kind of raise it over the call. I will be happy to answer before I go through the rudimentary book and echo the same. And I will also show you the system for some time. So coming 15 minutes, 5 minutes for question, and then 10-15 minutes for understanding it in the system.
Sir,
Yeah,
yeah, sir. Now just we discussed on the controlling area, right? So in the example which you quoted now, like for Coca-Cola, we had four controlling areas, no, for different regions which we
correct.
discussed.
Absolutely,
So
yes.
I was just trying to connect it to a business example. Like why it will not work with the one controlling area, sir? But what will
It's
be the scenario there?
okay. So I'm not too sure what's your name is. Is it Rajar? Hello, what's your good name, please? Okay, no problem. Let me just quickly give you the answer. So see, it's not about that it will not work with one controlling area. The matter is, for a organization like Coca-Cola, which is now existing in those 45 different countries and might be having those 45 entities, they want their operation to be grouped and subgrouped in a manner that it can be well managed. Okay, if let's say they manage everything globally, it might not be an easy task. So they broke it down region wise, and in fact many companies have done that. If you see any large MNCs, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Sabic, any large Unilever, any large company you see, that is how they break them down. They break them down from a region perspective for better management, operations, all of that purpose. So technically there are no challenge. Business point of view, in order to have a better streamlining, this is how they break it down. So that's why I intentionally took that example. Is that clear? Roger, is that clear? I hope. Yeah, I saw your message. Anyone else with any other question?
Sir, this CO document is generated at a department level only.
Sorry, Nirupam. Raise your question again. I just heard the last part of it.
You said that profit center will PCA document will be generated. Then
Right.
all of them others are only CO document is getting generated. It is at
Right.
department level only.
So no, not at all. So when I say CO document, if you are using internal order, okay, then
Okay.
obviously your document is having internal order. If you are
Yeah.
using WBS, then your document is having WBS. All these, so all these are elements, but these elements will be a part of a transactional document. That document is a CO document.
Okay. Fine.
Got it? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else with any question? We have 3 minutes more. Okay, so somebody wants to understand internal order again. Arijit, I think. Yeah. So Arijit, internal order is for specific purpose. When I took the example of exhibition, let me take another example. Exhibition is the best example, but let me take one more example. Let's say that I'm a car service provider. Okay, I am into car renting business. Now each of my car has been operating, and I want to know car wise, vehicle wise, my costs that are getting incurred. Okay, if I think of doing that, will department cost help me? Answer is no, because in one department probably you will push all the cost, and that will never be at a car level. So why not that we create each of those cars that I own and that I use for my services as internal order. As a result, I can specifically track not just cost but also revenue coming out of each of those vehicles. Okay, so it's for those specific identifications and reporting. I hope that clarifies, Arijit.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, we have 1 more minute. Probably I can take one more question. Super, seems rest are all fine. Good. So what I will do is I will go straight to the system, try and show you how this all controlling area, etc. looks like. See, there would be many technical stuff. It's not like you have to know everything out. You are not going to right now apply for a SAP consultant role. So don't worry. I will just showcase some of the key aspects which will be a good understanding, which will give you good understanding and pass by. So let me go to the system and let me share the screen first. Yeah, I hope you can see my screen. I'm just logging in. I hope you guys know how to log in and you know all this SAP screen, etc. Right? I don't have to explain at least these parts. If not, feel free to tell me. See, since I have also similar to you guys, since we have interacted in between, feel free to also raise anything which is not clear to you in past and you want to get a clarification or a clarity. I will be happy to help. But you have to come to me and raise it. I will not know what is the concern. Okay. So this is the easy access screen. So when you log in, first time you reach here. Okay. I hope you guys have seen it, but this is how the screen looks like. Now I will take you to the controlling area. How does that controlling area gonna look like? Have you guys seen the SCP system before? Anybody? Silence means I'm not too sure what is the case. Okay, fine, no problem. Let us go here. So this is how you define in the system the controlling area. What you see over here, a controlling area has been defined. A controlling area has some detailing like the currency, etc., based on which it will report. And there is a dimension. What is a dimension? This too, whether it's a cross company code or a controlling area with same company code. That means the relationship between controlling area and company code is 1:1 or 1:many. Like if you see over here, one company code is assigned to one controlling area. So this is the case of 1:1. Whereas let's take this one probably and go. This one. I'm just trying to search one-to-many relationship item. Yeah. Okay. It is still assigned to one. Okay, somebody has done some stupidity in the training system. Let me search a better case. Yeah, here is a perfect example. So you see the controlling area is 1015, and under 1015 there are so many companies, legal entities to be precise, which are assigned. Okay, and this one will be used for reporting all of them. And we talked about all of these items: cost center, WBS. This is WBS, basically projects, cost centers, internal orders. You recall all of that, right? Internal order, this is the internal order. You see, at a controlling area level, I activate or keep it not active. That means keep it inactive. I do that whole piece at a controlling area level. So basically, controlling area will govern the org elements that I am going to use, and that is why this is the topmost org element node. Okay, super. Let's then go back and let's go to the, yeah, let's go to this. I think this part we cleared quite well, so I don't think you need any further understanding here. This is the screen that we saw in the system, so that's fine. Probably you can demonstrate that out later on with the course, also do a practice. So I don't know if you guys have tried this out, but in practice you can mention the values, etc., for each of the things that has been demonstrated, and that is how you can do your own practice also in the same course. So that's the advantage. Okay, this is the content that it is talking about. Is it n:1 or 1:1? Depending upon the cases, as I said, you can have n:1 or 1:1 as a combination for controlling area and company code. We have discussed this. These are some of the key informations, like the financial year, the chart of accounts. These you need to maintain. One important fact which you need to know, and don't be confused, but just for the awareness, if your chart of accounts and financial year in controlling area are different to the company code, then you cannot assign that company code to the controlling area. Now, what is this? This means, let's take a case. Yeah, let's take a case that you are reporting as per IFRS, and IFRS has chart of accounts as INT that you are using. I hope you all know chart of accounts, so I'm not getting into the detailing of chart of accounts. If not, please feel free to tell me, then I will just give you a small dope for now. So if you have defined chart of accounts as IMT, okay, and that is what you have assigned at controlling area, but there is another entity where the chart of accounts that you have assigned is, let's say, KAUS. Okay, just an example. If that is the case, that here it's KAUS and the controlling area is having INT, you cannot assign that company code to the controlling area. It should be same. That's a you can say rule of assignment. Okay, generally this type of issues will not happen, that you will have differences, but in case you have differences, then system technically will stop you. Why? Because it it ensures that all the data that you kind of create in the system has a consistency at a controlling area level. It should not happen that some are getting posted in some other chart of accounts, and that same, so it's like, let's say the GL account for entertainment cost is different in one chart of accounts and is different in another chart of accounts. What will happen? Mess. Because now if somebody says that tell me the entertainment cost for a pack region, I cannot tell it, right? Because I have to find out through 5 different or 10 different or might be 20 different GL accounts. That's a big problem, because we are trying to solve that problem only by using the controlling area. So that is the rule set that has been put across. Okay. I think someone from the participant did raise this question. You see, these are different controlling areas, and each of these controlling areas are having company codes. And if you see these controlling areas like Europe, North America, Canada, France, Japan, and Mexico are the examples that has been given. Again, as I said, it this controlling area logic will completely depend upon how your company is functioning, how your organization is functioning, at what level they are looking to manage the operations, control the operations, etc. Okay, super. Let's understand the controlling area masters. So in fact, before, okay, let me take it from here still, because it is given well. We all by now know cost center. That's the only thing probably from all the 4 that you all can say that, okay, I'm aware of. I'm just assuming it. Okay. This and this we didn't discuss as of now. So let's just touch upon these 3 items. I intentionally didn't discuss it because I wanted to first clarify the whole controlling areas org element part. First, cost center is actually, yeah, one way you can say it's a master, but then at the same time, cost center is often considered as a part of a org element. Why? Because as I said, it's a important dimension, departments and departments across the board. So it's often considered as a important org element dimension. Whereas, what is this cost element? Cost element, in a very simple term, understand it like this. When I post in finance, I use GL account, right? Why I use GL account? Because GL account helps me to identify, to make me understand that yes, this is the this is the nature of cost, this is the nature of expense or revenue that I want to book. Okay. GL is limited to accounting, limited to finance. So how will I do the same thing in CO, in controlling? In order to do the same thing in controlling, I use cost element. Okay, so you can say the name for GL accounts, and when I say GL accounts, let me make it more acute. The name for GL accounts, which are PNL GL accounts, okay, in CO module is cost element. The name for PNL GL accounts in CO module is cost elements. So the GL accounts are being reflected as cost elements. Now let's talk about the activity types. And this is something where we go to probably all of yours favorite area, costing. Okay. I know costing as a word is a very wide term, right? Because it has too many stuff. And you guys know far better than me because you all are the experts on this. What happens is, and as we discuss this out, you will appreciate, in any let's take an example of any production process. There would be many activities involved in that production process, isn't it? When I say activities, I'm referring to those activities that we just discussed some time back. Operation, your condensing, heating, melting, splitting, sharpening, whatnot, all of that, right? Please note, all of these activities will have a cost. Very important thing, right? And the only way you can effectively analyze any cost data for a product is by knowing at this activity level the cost, right? Like how much labor I have incurred, how much power I have incurred, how much oxygen, nitrogen, LPG, all of this I have incurred, how much depreciation I have incurred, how much maintenance I have incurred, all of those which are directly attributable to the product. Please note, all of those which are directly attributable to the product. Okay. So what we do in the system is we create all of these pieces like labor, power, machine start time, idle time, uh, your oxygen, your consumables, might be your nitrogen, might be your water, any other chemical, all of this as activity types. Okay, why we create them as activity types? Because what we want to track is, for each of those operations that we did, the condensing, melting, this, that, how much of these activity has been incurred in them, and of what quantity. I repeat, and of what quantity, and of what cost. So if, let's say, when I have done the heating, I have utilized 2 labors for 2 hours at 50 rupees per hour, then what is the cost I incurred? I incurred 2 labors into 50 into 2, right? So 2 into 50 into 2 becomes somewhat like 200, correct? So that means from the heating operation, I have incurred 400 rupees and created one product out of that heat. That is how I identified the cost. Cost of heating, cost of labor in heating. If apart from labor, there is also a cost of, let's take an example in that heating process, of power. And power is 50 kilowatt for 50 rupees per kilowatt, and I'm using 10 kilowatt of power. So 50 into 10, 500. 500 plus 400. 900 is the cost of heating, and in that 900 as cost of fitting, 400 is labor, 500 is power, right? That kind of detailing is what I get with this activity type. Anyone who is having a confusion on activity type, please feel free to point. Okay, I go with the fact that it's clear. Next is statistical key figure. Now, statistical key figure is being used in the system as a criteria. What is this all about?
Sir,
Yeah,
sorry. Sir, can
no
you hear
problem.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. Sir, in one of the configuration screen which you had shown right now, no, that hierarchy and all, that cost component active and all those things you had shown
Uh-huh.
right now.
Correct.
In that there is one activity type.
Correct.
So this activity type, and are we talking about the same thing?
Exactly. So even the activity type needs to be activated there. If you don't activate it there, then you cannot use the activity.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, sir.
Okay. Let me go back. Is it somewhat related to activity cost? No, Arijit. See, activity costing is a concept. Okay. This activity type is what I just explained: labor, power, etc. for each and every operation. That's the activity that I am doing for that operation. Okay. Activity based costing or activity costing is a concept in itself, and it has its own way of managing the activity based costing. Yes, there also finally what you do is you identify the cost at an activity level, right? But the intention of this activity type is not just limited to activity based costing. It is more, I will say, wider. It basically provides you for each of the activity the cost, which can be then summarized, reported at an operational level, at a product level, and all of those kinds. Clarifies?
So you mean to say that if like this will be like act for that activation of that activity type will be only for activity based costing, or like for activity types master data we have to activate that way, huh?
No, 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 no. So
Mm.
activity type, so don't get confused. First of all, activity type is not limited to activity based costing. Okay, activity based costing is an approach. That approach has no relationship with activity type. Activity type is a medium which can be used to determine standard costing, actual costing, activity based costing in all of those fronts. Okay.
Okay.
Activity type is just those activities that I can identify the cost, the quantity at each operation. Like the example I gave of heating with my activity of power and labor. It can be 2, it can be 10, it can be 20. No problem with it. Clear?
Okay. Okay. Huh. Yes. Yes.
Okay, super. So I'm moving back to the Excel, and sorry, I'm moving back to the uh, material, and I won't be able to see if somebody is typing. Sorry. So if someone has some other question, then please raise it up. Yeah. Now we come back to statistical key figure. And what I was mentioning is statistical key figure is nothing but the whole logic of putting, let me say, the criterias. What is this criteria when we say criterias? See, in the previous case, when we were talking about activity type, we touched upon direct cost items, right? Something which is directly attributable to production. But there can be lot of indirect cost related items, correct? The rent of the factory, one example. Now, these kind of indirect cost should also be allocated onto the product cost, right? That is what we do, right? When we prepare the costing sheet, we put across some value. The only difference is, in theoretical life, you get those number in the exercise copy, or rather in your exam papers, and you take that number and calculate it. To be honest with you, it's very easy. Although, I mean, I'm also a part of it. When we do those sums during our educational stage, we find it very difficult, right? Oh God, I mean, we don't get to that right answer. But actually, that's easy. Why? You get the core, you get the 90% of the stuff already there in the exam papers. Whereas in real life, the game or the whole story is of that 90% and not of that 10%. That 10% calculation is the easiest thing in this in the real life. But in order to determine that how and what is that indirect cost, how have you determined that indirect cost or direct cost or blah blah blah, is the real ball game. Okay, and that is what we have to then in real life perform. So coming back, that indirect cost is something which, as a factory rent, the example that I took, I know that factory rent is, let's say, 50 lakhs, but I cannot just take this 50 lakh and charge it to one product. It will be like amazing, right? I mean, we will lose the whole concepts. So I have to do some logical way of distributing this 50 lakhs at certain levels. And how do we do so? So basically, in a technical parlance, those 50 lakhs which I might have booked into a cost center, that is, let's say, administration, I transfer that 50 lakhs to different production cost centers. Like if in that factory I have, let's take an example, heating, splitting, and let's say condensing. Okay, these three things. So that 50 lakhs will first get allocated to these three cost centers, and then from cost centers it gets allocated to product. That second phase, from cost center to product, we will touch upon some other day. Don't worry. Okay. Today, let's pick up the point that the 50 lakh is booked from in admin and is moved from admin to other production departments. Now, what would be the logic? I mean, I just take 50 lakhs and I say, okay, I like to do one third, one third, one third. Or today I had a fight with the person who is in heating department. So I will allocate, let's say, 40 lakhs to that department and 5 lakhs to other department. No, it cannot be like this, right? There has to be a proper rationale. The proper rationale is some criteria, and that criteria might be number of people working in those department, might be the floor, the space that is being used by each of those departments, or might be the let's say the production or the output generation that has been done from each of those departments. Anything can be that criteria, and taking that criteria, I can then allocate the 50 lakhs to the three production departments, right? This criteria which I just mentioned, number of employees, output counts, number of switch points, or area, space area, these criterias are statistical key figure. You define them as statistical key figure, mention for each of the department what is the count, like might be one is having 1000 square feet and there is having 4000 square feet, and the third one is having, let's say, 2000, or rather, let's say first one is having 1000 square feet, second one is having 3000 square feet, and the third one is having again 1000 square feet. then that means 50 lakhs will be distributed as 10 lakhs, 30 lakhs, 10 lakhs. Done. Right? So that particular piece of identifying the criteria is statistical key figure. Clear with me so far? Guys, any question? Or if you all have been clear, please message or put it in the message, because these are basic concepts. I mean, when we get into the more detailing of controlling, all of these concepts will come. So feel free to raise your doubts if you have. Okay, I'm just giving few more minutes if anybody is getting into any thoughts. Otherwise, we will go to the next slide. Super. I don't see any message coming in, so I presume we are good on this.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Ajit.
Uh, you are talking about cost elements, right? So cost elements is basically related to primary cost or what?
Okay, so see, in fact, I wanted to spell this out a bit later, but I don't know if might be that has already been covered and that is why you are raising. So let me just give you a small brief and not pull you into a complete story. So generally what happens is, see, your cost is always cost. I mean, it doesn't have any bifurcation, right? That way, based on the nature, right? So if I have, let's say, my raw material consumption cost, it will always be a raw material consumption cost. If I have my labor cost, it will always be my labor cost. That is how it is. Now, in SAP, you will find the cost when it comes to cost elements. That means when I report them out in controlling, the cost reporting has been divided into two different, I will say, dimensions. One is called primary cost element, another is called secondary cost elements. Okay. Now, what is this? Primary cost element and secondary cost element. Typically, what happens is when I book the cost. So let's take the example of that 50,000. Okay, best way. Sorry, 50 lakhs. That 50 lakhs, when I booked in the administration department, the factory rent, when I booked in the admin department, it was primary cost. Why? I took the head of rent and booked it under admin, job done. Rent is reporting it out and is saying that the cost has gone to a particular cost center. Now, if you see in a more detailed manner, admin is not responsible for this cost. Yes, admin is facilitating the whole thing, but admin should not be responsible for this cost. Then how do I manage it? I manage it based on the concept that I now allocate it, which is what we did, 10 lakhs, 30 lakhs, 10 lakhs. When I do allocations, then allocations are done on secondary cost. Secondary cost. Why? Because from a finance perspective, you have already done the booking and your job is finished. So for a company, for that factory, the booking is done and your job is finished. But the allocation that is happening between departments is something which still needs to be done to identify the right set of cost, right set of data for departments. That kind of an allocation will not be managed by finance, right? And that is where secondary cost elements comes in picture. So secondary cost element as a medium gets used to allocate all of these kind of cost further between the departments or departments to product, so on and so forth. Okay, that's the high level logic of my primary cost and secondary cost. Clarifies, Arijit?
Yes, sir. But I have a one question. Basically, from the knowledge of the last few sessions,
Mhm.
primary cause is basically related to GL, right?
Yes, because the posting happens. So the first posting of 50 lakhs that we talked about, right?
Yeah.
Which is happening to the rent account. That is getting posted through the rent GL. But as I said, the rent GL, when is getting posted to the cost center admin, gets represented itself as a cost element. Because without a cost element, I cannot post the rent GL to a cost center admin. So in order to post it to any cost object, or rather any org element items that I just mentioned, I need them to be created as cost elements. When I create them as cost elements, those are primary because those are GL converted into my cost elements. But when I use further allocations, when I do further allocations, then I don't use the primary one. Then I use the secondary one, which are separately created to transfer the amount within departments or within functions or from department and functions to the products.
Yeah.
Clear?
Okay, sir. Okay. Thanks.
No problem. So I see one more question. Real order and statistical order. Okay. Do you had? I mean, did you had that discussion earlier, Rajiv, on real order and statistical order?
No, sir. There was no discussion. Actually, we had the class on internal order actually, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
then further discussion did not happen on that.
Okay, okay. So what I will do is, in order to cover this now, I will create a matrix in the Excel in some time, and then I will explain it. Give me some time. Probably in 5-10 minutes, we will go into that. Huh? Because there are a lot of beauty in this real and statistical posting, which I want to explain.
Okay, okay, sir. No problem.
Okay. Any other question? So I see only 2 people being active. What's wrong with rest of 29? I mean, 29 includes me also, but rest of 28. Yeah, so please be active. I mean, it's not like I'm just asking you to compulsorily put up a question, but if you are understanding things and things are clear to you, at least write it out that yes, those are clear, or no, you need a better understanding. At least if even if you write that pointers in the message, no problem. I will try to cover that out. That is the whole objective. Okay, let's go back to the, where is it? Yeah. So let's go a bit forward and try and first cover these few slides, and then we come to some of those interesting details. So this is the cost center hierarchy. Probably this would be quite clear to you. In fact, we also took the example of plant, and then within those plant, if you have 5 different production departments, then you will create 10 cost centers in a hierarchy form. or if you have, let's say, for each entity a finance department, then you will create those five entities, sorry, five cost centers of finance. So those are all something which can be grouped, subgrouped, and subgroups. That means you can have multiple nodes, like you see here, company code. So one company code, two company codes, three company codes, each company code having different functions, and then within those functions sub function, and then within those sub function the cost center. Okay, so you can create a very much a simple hierarchy to do only one thing. With this kind of a structure, you get cost at these cost center level, you get a rolled up information at this level. So if I want to know internal service cost, which includes cafeteria and services, I will see it at this level. Similarly, if I want to know the total corporate cost, I will be seeing it at this level, which includes the cost of this, and this. In the same fashion, if I want to know the cost at a company code level, I can roll up and see everything at this level because it's a node, and this will include all of these cost centers. Okay, that's the concept. A creation of a cost center, I will show it directly in the system, no worries. Here it is, the primary cost and the secondary cost concepts that we just talked about. So we touched it. Okay, it's explaining all the same thing. The internal activity allocation, assessment, overheads, and internal order settlements. All of these are somehow related to, in one or other way, related to that internal. That means when I say internal, department to department, function to department, function to function, or department of function to products, all of those scenarios. So these are all secondary costs. Don't worry, I will show. So I mean, you can do the demonstration at your comfort, but I will show some of them in the system. Okay, that's another option. Yes, see, this is what I explained in the activity master. So if you see, this is an example which has not been taken from a production perspective, but from a service perspective. So in the service world, it is stating 10 hour of consulting cost. Okay, 10 hour of consulting cost is being amounting to 3,000. Now, how do I identify that consulting cost? So that consulting cost is my activity type. Okay, without this activity type getting created, I cannot identify my consulting cost, which is for 10 hours, $30 each, coming down to $3,000. That is how it works. This is again, as I repeat, example of service industry, which is not a right thing. Basically, activity types are more used and significantly used in the manufacturing piece. A master I can cover. So this is the place where, so I said that any activity will have quantity and price. Now, quantity is one side, which you know that this much quantity I require, this much quantity of labor, this much quantity of power, etc. But what is the price? I have to also inform that in the to the system, and this price might vary period on period, right? So that price calculation, that price determination is what has been shown here. Here the consulting is getting priced out based on different cases, like like in a service industry you have different types of people working for you. Might be an analyst, might be a consultant, might be a senior consultant, might be an expert, subject matter expert. Each of them will have their own rates per hour. That is what you maintain, and then based on their actual hours worked you calculate the price that gets charged to that particular client or to that particular project. That is how your service industry works, whereby this consultant, senior consultant, expert, analyst gets replaced by, in manufacturing world, labor, power, oxygen, nitrogen, those things. Okay. Okay. And then comes the statistical key figure, which again, sorry, which again we discussed some time back, that this is nothing but criteria. If you see here, employee, telephone units, these are being considered as statistical key figure. And what you do, you mention month on month the counts. These counts are always mentioned department wise, okay, because that is where after having it informed at a department level, etc., you will do the allocation. So these are always maintained at a department level. Okay. When you create a master data, the master data is like cost centers, profit centers, etc. All of these data that you create are time based. What do I mean by it? Let's say that you feel that there are certain cases where the cost, or rather there are okay, let me put the example more realistic. Let's say that you feel that the current department that I have, let's say the department is a designing department. Okay. Now that current department of designing is going to, it's going to be for coming 1 year. And after that, this department will no more be required. Why? Because once my design is done, my designs are finalized, my constructions are started, I will not require the, sorry, my product manufacturing is started, I might not require this design department. So that design department that I create as a department in the system, as a cost center in the system, I will give a validity. Validity in a way, let's say that this department is valid from today for coming 3 years, so that nobody can post any transactions, any entry after 3 years. And only validity or viable period in which the transactions can be posted is those 3 years. That kind of a thing. Collective processing is just an option. Like if you want to do any mass processing, any changes which is impacting multiple cost centers, multiple profit centers, etc., then you do collective processing as an option. Like for example, let's say the person responsible for cost center has changed, or some other element for the cost center, might be business area, might be type of cost center category. These kind of data changes, so you can do it through collective processing. Okay. Okay, this is just an illustration of cost elements, different kind, cost centers, activity types, and the statistical key figure. That's fine. So I don't know if you have covered this previously, but There is a concept of grouping, which is one, okay, that we just talked about. The grouping that we saw in the hierarchy, which was operating at a company code level, at a function level, and then at a sub function level, etc. And you also have a selection variant option. Let's say you don't want to go with that grouping for certain specific thing, like changing the master data or processing some of the information out. You don't want to go with that grouping. You want to go cutting across that group based on some other criteria. So what you can do is you can create variants. What is this variance? So like I have in total 5,000 cost center. For 3,000 identified cost center, I want to perform something. So I will select that 3,000 cost center and create a variant and use that. This is the logic. Similarly, you can very much do copy and all, like if you have already a group created and you want to create another alternative group similar to that, just copy and put your suffix and it will get copied with the data. Mainly if there are cases where you want to do year on year different kinds of reportings by copying it out, stuff of those kind, pretty much possible. Okay, let's, so we will limit it for today till that point, but in order to understand it, let's see some of these master data. So let's go to first KS03. Let's take a cost center. Yeah, see how it is. You have name descriptions, you give user responsible, person responsible, which department it refers to, category. Categories are basically whether it's a administration, it's a production, it's a logistic, it's a development, what kind of cost center it is, what kind of categorization I can give to it. Then you have this hierarchy. Hierarchy is basically the sub node to which it belongs to. So basically this belongs to ADM, which is the sub node for it. So I just assign it to that particular hierarchy. It has business area. I don't know if that business area concept has been covered in finance or not, but in finance there is an there is an organizational element which is business area, and you can also assign this to a business area. Last but not the least, the most important thing, you will be assigning each cost center to a profit center. Why? Because profit centers PNL has cost also, right? So all the cost that is going to a cost center should be connected to a profit center, as simple as it is. And that is why each of your cost center is also assigned to a profit center. Okay. There is also one tab where you will see some lock option. So if you don't want the system to post certain kind of cost and data, it will be locked. Don't go with this. Even if you don't lock revenues, you cannot post revenues into a cost center. I repeat, you cannot post revenues into a cost center. Why? Because cost center is only capable of capturing cost. If you post any revenue in a cost center, it becomes statistical. And I will come to that statistical and real posting in some time. Okay, rest is all your address and blah blah blah, which is fine. Similarly, let us go to, sorry, let us go to KL03. Let me see if we have some activity types. Okay, seems I don't have activity type right now. Okay, might be if I remove this one first. So see, this is how I have activity types in the system. This is labor as an activity, mention as the unit of measure, what is the kind of pricing, etc., that I am going to consider for that activity, and then this activity basically becomes ready for calculating the quantity and the pricing for the labor as an item. Once you create this, then there is a transaction, which is this. Yeah, you see, I maintain for each of those activity that I create a price. Okay, this is the price that will be used to calculate per hour how much is the total cost that I am incurring. Okay, that is how system will calculate it. That's the logic. Any question so far before I get into the statistical and real? Yep. Okay, we will have 2 minutes or 3 minutes rather to take any question, and then last 10 minutes I would like to cover the statistical and real postings. So any questions, guys, please? So far, is everything clear to all of you? Is it making sense, whatever I'm speaking? Are you guys okay with it? Okay, I see Nirupama confirming. Okay, super, getting some of the messages. That's good. That sounds good to me then. Okay, super. Thank you guys for the clarity. Let us then jump to, and I think I'm already in presentation mode. So let us then jump to the next nice topic. So sometime back, somebody bought this topic of statistical and real. Let me put it as statistical and real posting because that's it. Now in SAP, always remember the fact there is only one real posting. Okay, I repeat, there is only one real posting. You cannot have more than one real posting. Why? Because if you have more than one real posting, it's duplication. Okay, so you will always have one real posting. Okay.
Sir, can you define real posting?
Okay, sure. When we say real post, okay, yeah. So when we say real posting, and when I say only one real posting, we are trying to mean, or rather I'm trying to mean that, let's take the example of 50 lakhs. The entry that was posted by rent, sorry, somebody has to go on mute, otherwise my voice will go out. Once I finish, you can raise the question. Yeah. So the entry that is being posted through the GL.
Sir, we are not able to hear you.
Oh, sorry. I was not aware. Somehow I was on mute. How, I don't know. Okay, okay. Sorry. Thanks for informing. I'm audible now, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Super. Okay, and I wrote many things, so let me go back. So somebody raised that question, that what is real posting, and that is what I was explaining. So I took the example of my rent, which was posted, my factory rent of 50 lakhs, which was posted on admin. Okay, that was a real posting. Why? Because this cost center admin is capable of taking this 50 lakhs and then distribute it to cost center production 1, cost center production 2, cost center production 3. Okay, if in case this particular cost center cannot further distribute this, then the posting that I have done is statistical. Okay, so if the object is capable of further passing that cost, then it's a real posting. If the posting is to an object which is not capable of further passing that cost, then it's a statistical posting. Okay, clear on real and statistical definition?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Okay, I hope it is clear. Yeah, done. Now, coming back to the important part, which is on what occasions I will know that this is real and this is statistical. So, the answer to it is, let me take cost center, internal order, and WBS. In the master data, we define if it's statistical. Okay, same way in the master data we define if it's statistical. Both has the same story. Whereas cost center is based on the transaction posting. So this is flexible. This is based on the transaction posting. How it works, let me explain. So let's say rent, and let's say cost center 50 lakhs. This is real. Let's another case, let's say rent, internal order 50 lakhs, real. Similarly, WBS 50 lakhs real. Internal order statistical itself. The master data itself, the master data itself that I created for internal order is statistical. Then it's statistical. Okay. Here I can further allocate. Here it's finished. Why? This is just for information. The moment you created a statistical, it is only for information. No further transaction possible. Whereas in all of these cases, I can do further allocation, further processing of it. Same way, if I do this as WBS, it's statistical. Now, I wrote a very important thing that based on the transaction posting, cost center will become statistical or real. What is that all about? I can also do my posting like this. So 50 lakhs is getting posted to two objects. Okay. In case 50 lakhs is getting posted to two objects and either cost center or an IO or WBS, then one is real and one is statistical. Which is real? IO or WBS. Which is statistical? Cost center. You are not defining this in the master data. Automatically, because the transaction is getting posted to two objects, cost center will become statistical here. Okay. Second case, if revenue GL, then cost center will be statistical. In these two cases, cost center will be statistical. Whereas in this scenario, where IO and WBS is statistical, one real will be cost center. Because again, the other itself, which is the posting going, is statistical in nature. So here it will be IO or WBS having statistical and cost center having real. Cost center is that way very flexible in terms of managing itself out. That's the logic. Very important. A bit consulting flavor in it, but then that is how the whole process works.
Sir, please explain once again this concept.
Okay. So what we are talking about is we have a cost center, internal order, and WBS. Okay, three objects.
Sir, what is
If
WBS?
you joined late, I covered that part here. So it's basically used for construction companies where if in case you have, let's say, long projects, big constructions to be done, you use WBS to manage them out. Okay, just at a high level to understand. So it is similar to like cost centers and internal order as a cost basket, but used for construction. Okay, so in case of WBS and internal order, you will have statistical option in the master data itself. So either you create the order and WBS as statistical or real. But for cost center, you will not have that option. It will always be getting created as real, but it will change its nature based on the transaction posting. Now what happens? If I'm simply posting rent to a cost center, it's always a real posting. If I'm posting the same to a normal real internal order, it's a real posting. So is the case with WBS. But if I'm posting it to a statistical internal order, then obviously it will be a statistical posting. So is the case with WBS. If I'm posting the cost to a statistical WBS, then it's a statistical posting. The moment it's statistical posting, it's just for information, so I cannot do any further processing. Whereas for all the real cases, I can do further processing in the sense allocation or any other further transactions to it. Now comes a bit of more complexity. Let's say I want to book this rent to two objects. Why? The exhibition cost, if you recall. I wanted to calculate the cost for exhibition, but at the same time, that cost should also be a part of that department which is organizing it. Might be the, let's say, the administration department. So I should book it under administration and under exhibition both, right? That's the example. So in that way, if I have both the objects, okay, and the IO or WBS is always the preferential item. IO and WBS, if any one of them is real, then automatically cost center will get the statistical entry automatically. Okay, so that means this one you can process further from IO, from WBS, but this is finished, statistical, no more processing possible. Whereas other way around, if this itself is statistical, then this is going to get the statistical entry and our cost center is going to get the real entry. And that means the cost center can further allocate or process it out. IO or WBS cannot do it. Okay? Clarifies?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any other questions so far? I mean, I know we are extending the time now. It's almost 6:01, but quickly 5 minutes, last 4-5 minutes for question. Any other question, anything? Ravi, you have your hands raised. Tell me if you have any question. Ravi Tiwari. Yeah. Okay. Is it clear to all of you? I mean, the concept of statistical and real, just to be sure of. You can same way message it out. Super, super. Okay. Okay. Super. Fantastic. So I'm getting a lot of yes. So I'm going ahead with this. Great. So guys, I will not bug you further. And given the fact that today was a public holiday, thanks for joining in and hope you had a good session and a productive one. Let's touch base tomorrow, same time, 4 o'clock, and we will continue the journey. For the time being, bye-bye, take care and have a good evening. Thank you. Thank you all.